The cardboard box landed with a heavy thud on the oak dining table. Maya's grandmother, Eleanor James, brushed 75 years of dust from her hands and pushed her silver-framed glasses up her nose. "I think it's time you knew," Eleanor said, her voice steady despite the slight tremor in her hands. "Before I sell this house and move into that retirement community you've been researching on that fancy artificial intelligence app of yours?" Maya looked up from her smartphone. Interest suddenly piqued. Her grandmother had lived alone in this sprawling Victorian home for 3 decades, longer than Maya had been alive. The for sale sign had only gone up yesterday, sending shockwaves through their small family. Everyone had questions, but Eleanor had maintained her characteristic silence until now. "Knew what, Grandma?" Maya asked, setting down her phone where a retirement living website displayed luxury apartments with hefty monthly fees. Eleanor's fingers, marked with age spots but still remarkably strong from decades of nursing work, pried open the box. She extracted a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1964. The bold headline read, "Clay defeats Liston, becomes heavyweight champion." "I was there that night," Eleanor said simply, "front row." Maya nodded politely, assuming this was just another piece of her grandmother's extensive memorabilia collection. Eleanor had always been a boxing fan. "The next morning," Eleanor continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "I woke up beside him." Maya's eyebrows shot up. "Wait, what?" "Beside who?" Eleanor met her granddaughter's eyes with unexpected steadiness. "Cassius Clay, the man the world would soon know as Muhammad Ali." "You dated Muhammad Ali?" Maya's voice cracked in disbelief. "For almost 2 years," Eleanor confirmed, reaching deeper into the box. "Before he became the Muhammad Ali everyone knows, before his conversion, before his resistance to the draft. When he was still just becoming who he would be." If this story has already made you feel something, however small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. Maya struggled to find the right words. "That's impossible. You never mentioned. Why would you keep something like that secret, and then live alone for 30 years? Eleanor smiled faintly. "The investment I made was in privacy, Maya. Some stories are too precious to share until the time is right." Maya studied her grandmother's face, searching for signs of cognitive decline or confusion. Instead, she found only the clear-eyed certainty that had characterized Eleanor throughout her life. The same woman who had put herself through nursing school while raising Maya's father alone, who had eventually risen to become chief nursing officer at the private medical center downtown before her retirement. "I don't understand," Maya said finally. "You've never even had a boyfriend since Grandpa died. Dad says you've been alone since before I was born." "By choice," Eleanor said. She pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside lay a simple gold ring with a modest diamond. "Your grandfather was a good man. He gave me security when I needed it most. But he wasn't the love of my life." Maya's head spun. The health insurance statement on the kitchen counter, the mortgage refinance documents beside it, even the security system panel blinking on the wall. All these familiar elements of her grandmother's life suddenly seemed to belong to a stranger. "You're serious," Maya whispered, reaching for the box. "You actually dated Muhammad Ali?" "Before your online banking apps and credit card debt consolidation programs," Eleanor said with a slight smile, "there was cash, paper statements, and face-to-face meetings. It was easier to keep secrets then, especially secrets about a young white nurse and a rising black boxer in 1964. The implications dawned on Maya slowly. The racial tensions. "It would have been dangerous," Eleanor finished, For both of us, after the Civil Rights Act passed that summer, things were changing, but not fast enough, not nearly fast enough. From the box, Eleanor withdrew a stack of photographs bound with a faded ribbon. The first showed a stunningly beautiful young woman with honey blonde hair, styled in a perfect bouffant, standing beside a tall, handsome young man whose face was instantly recognizable even to Maya, who knew little about boxing history. "Your startup company might call this an influencer relationship nowadays," Eleanor said with unexpected irony. But back then it could have ruined us both. Louisville, Kentucky, March 1963. The emergency room doors burst open, and Eleanor Harrison nearly dropped her clipboard as two men half-carried, half-dragged a third between them. "Doctor!" one shouted. "He needs a doctor!" Eleanor rushed forward, her white nurse's cap perfectly positioned despite the 12-hour shift she'd already completed. "What happened?" she demanded, helping guide the injured man to an examination table. "Training accident," said one of the men, an older gentleman with worry etched across his face. "He caught a bad one to the ribs." Eleanor looked down at the patient and felt her heart skip. She recognized him immediately from the local papers, the young boxer they called the Louisville Lip, Cassius Clay. "Hurts to breathe," Clay managed, his famous bravado dampened by pain. Eleanor slipped into professional mode, despite her racing pulse. "Possible fractured ribs. I'll page Dr. Wilson and get you something for the pain, Mr. Clay. Call me Cassius," he said, flashing a smile that somehow outshone even his obvious discomfort. "And you are?" "Nurse Harrison," she replied stiffly, already preparing an injection of pain medication. "Eleanor Harrison." "Eleanor," he repeated, as though tasting the name. "Like Eleanor Roosevelt." "A strong name!" She felt heat rise to her cheeks and mentally chastised herself. This was hardly professional behavior for the head emergency nurse, particularly with a patient, particularly with a black patient in 1963 Kentucky. "This will help with the pain," she said, administering the injection with practiced precision. "You sure have gentle hands, Nurse Eleanor," Clay observed, his eyes never leaving her face. "You should save your breath, Mr. Clay," she advised, though she couldn't help but notice the intelligence behind his playful gaze, "and your charm for someone more appropriate." "More appropriate?" he questioned, wincing as he shifted on the table. "You mean someone who looks like me?" Eleanor glanced around nervously. "I mean someone who isn't your nurse," she clarified, though they both understood the unspoken truth. 2 days later, Eleanor was finishing her shift when she spotted a small crowd gathered at the nurse's station. At the center stood Cassius Clay, his ribs taped but his smile unbounded, signing autographs for the day staff. When he saw her, he immediately broke away. "Nurse Eleanor!" he called out, drawing every eye in the vicinity to her. "Just the person I wanted to see." Eleanor felt a mix of panic and something else, something dangerous and thrilling. "Mr. Clay," she acknowledged, "you should be resting those ribs." "How can I rest when I have a debt to repay?" he asked. "You took such good care of me, I thought I might return the favor. Perhaps dinner." A hush fell over the nurse's station. In 1963 Louisville, what he was suggesting was more than inappropriate. It was practically revolutionary. "That's not necessary," Eleanor managed, aware of the judgmental stares from her colleagues. "I insist," Clay said, seemingly oblivious to, or perhaps deliberately challenging, the social boundaries he was crossing. "Unless you have an investment portfolio meeting to attend?" His eyes twinkled with mischief. Despite herself, Eleanor laughed. "A nurse's salary doesn't leave much for investing, Mr. Clay. Then let me introduce you to the finest restaurant in Louisville. Tomorrow night?" I'll have my financial advisor calculate the exact value of the excellent medical care you provided. His persistence, his confidence, his utter disregard for what others thought. It was intoxicating. Against every principle of professional ethics and social convention, Eleanor heard herself say, 7 o'clock, I'll meet you there. Their first dinner became a second, then a third, always in private, always careful. When Clay fought Henry Cooper in London, Eleanor took her first vacation in 5 years to be there, disguised in a headscarf and sunglasses. When he shocked the world by defeating Sonny Liston in February 1964, she watched from a private box, her heart pounding with a mixture of pride and fear. That night, in the privacy of his hotel suite, as champagne flowed and the world buzzed about the new heavyweight champion, Cassius slipped a simple gold chain around her neck. "I'm changing my name," he told her softly. "Converting to Islam. The world's about to know me as Muhammad Ali." Eleanor touched the chain, which held a small pendant. "Will I still know you as the man I love?" His eyes, so confident in the ring, showed a flash of vulnerability. "Oh, that depends. Can you love Muhammad as you've loved Cassius?" Instead of answering, she kissed him, the taste of victory champagne sweet on his lips. "The health insurance company would have dropped me in a heartbeat if they'd known," Eleanor told Maya, her fingers tracing the faded photograph of herself standing beside Ali after the Liston fight. "That and the private clinic where I worked would have fired me on the spot." "But you kept seeing him?" Maya asked, captivated by this hidden chapter of her grandmother's life. "For almost 2 years," Eleanor confirmed. "Through his name change, through his championship defenses, I was there in the shadows." "What happened?" Maya asked. "Why did it end?" Eleanor's eyes clouded. "The same reason I lived alone for 30 years afterward." Some choices change your life forever. New York City, April 1966. The apartment on Central Park West belonged to a business associate of Ali's, though Eleanor suspected it was actually owned by someone in the Nation of Islam. It had become their sanctuary, the one place they could be together without scrutiny. "They're going to draft me," Ali said, pacing the plush carpet. The evening news murmured in the background, reporting on escalating casualties in Vietnam. Eleanor sat on the edge of the bed, watching him. At 24, she had abandoned her life in Louisville to follow him to New York, taking a job at a hospital in Manhattan. Her official apartment was a small studio in the Bronx, but she spent most nights here with him. "You could go," she suggested hesitantly. "Serve your 2 years. You're Muhammad Ali. They'd treat you like royalty. Have you box exhibition matches for the troops?" He stopped pacing to look at her, disappointment evident in his expression. "Is that what you think I should do? Compromise my principles, my religious beliefs?" "I think I don't want to see you go to prison," Eleanor replied honestly. "I don't want to see your career destroyed." Ali resumed his pacing. "Some things are more important than a career, than money. My digital security in this country has been compromised since the day I was born black in America." Eleanor recognized the tension in his shoulders, the same coiled energy he displayed before a fight. "What are you going to do?" "Refuse," he said simply. "I'll tell them I ain't got no quarrel with them, Viet Cong." The words sent a chill through her. "They'll strip you of your title. Let them. They'll prosecute you. Let them do that too." Eleanor stood, moving to embrace him from behind. "And us? What happens to us when you become the most controversial man in America?" He turned in her arms, his expression grave. "That's what I need to discuss with you, the brothers in the nation. They don't approve of our relationship." Eleanor stiffened. She had always known this day might come. "Oh, because I'm white." "Partly," Ali admitted. but also because you're a distraction. They say America will hate me enough for refusing the draft. If they discover I'm loving a white woman too." She stepped back, arms falling to her sides. "So this is it. After 3 years, you're ending things because your brothers disapprove." "It's not that simple, Elle." It was the nickname he'd given her, the one no one else ever used. "It seems pretty simple to me," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You're choosing them over us." "I'm choosing the fight that needs fighting," he corrected. "The one that affects millions of black folks across this country, not just my personal happiness." Deep down, Eleanor knew he was right, knew that what he was about to do, refusing the draft on religious grounds, risking prison and professional ruin, was an act of profound courage. But knowing didn't ease the pain. "I'm pregnant," she said quietly. Ali froze, his expression shifting from shock to wonder to deep concern in the space of seconds. "You're sure?" Eleanor nodded. 8 weeks. I confirmed it yesterday with a private doctor at the clinic. Paid cash." She managed a weak smile. "No health insurance claim to trace." Ali sank onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. "This changes everything." "Does it?" Eleanor challenged. "You're still going to refuse the draft. You're still going to become public enemy number 1. And I'm still white." He looked up at her, conflict evident in his eyes. "We could get married. Go somewhere." "Where?" she interrupted. "Where in this world could Muhammad Ali go unrecognized? Where could we raise a mixed-race child without either hatred or scrutiny? Your startup business is being famous, Muhammad. There's no escaping that now." The truth hung heavy between them. In 1966, America, their love was still a radical act. Their child would bear the burden of that radicalism. "There's another option," Eleanor said carefully. "My supervisor at the hospital, her brother is a good man, a widower with no children. He's proposed to me twice now." Ali's head snapped up. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he would give this child a name, a home. Protection from what's coming. You'd marry another man while carrying my child." The hurt in his voice was palpable. "I'd do what's necessary to protect our child from becoming a target, from becoming a headline." Ali stood, crossing to the window that overlooked Central Park. The city sprawled before him, indifferent to the drama unfolding in the apartment. "Your mortgage would be secure," he said finally, not turning around. "I'd make sure of that. Set up a trust, make regular deposits." "I don't want your money," Eleanor protested. "It's not for you," he replied. "It's for my child." "A child who can never know you're their father," Eleanor reminded him gently. "That's the only way this works, the only way they stay safe from the spotlight." When Ali finally turned back to her, his eyes shone with unshed tears. "Is this really what you want, Elle?" "What I want," she said, her voice breaking, "is a world where I could love you openly, where our child could know their real father. But we don't live in that world yet." 1 month later, Eleanor Harrison became Eleanor James, wife of William James, a kind but unexciting insurance executive from Connecticut. When her son was born, 7 months after the wedding, no one questioned the premature arrival of an apparently healthy, full-term baby. "Your father never knew," Eleanor told Maya, who sat in stunned silence. "William was good to him, loved him as his own. When William died 10 years later, I honored his memory by keeping the secret." "My dad," Maya struggled to comprehend. "You're saying my father is Muhammad Ali's son?" Eleanor nodded solemnly. "Your father carries the DNA of one of the greatest athletes in history and one of the most principled men I've ever known. Does Dad know any of this?" "No," Eleanor said firmly, "and he can't know. Not ever. I promised William, and I promised Muhammad." Maya's mind raced. So when Grandpa died and you started living alone, it was partly grief, Eleanor acknowledged. William was a good husband, but it was also insurance against slipping up, against revealing the secret. Solitude was my cybersecurity measure, in a way. For 30 years? Maya was incredulous. You isolated yourself for 30 years to keep this secret? And I would do it 30 more, Eleanor said with quiet certainty, to protect your father, to honor my promises. Present day, Maya sat back in her chair, attempting to process everything she'd learned. The revelation that her father was Muhammad Ali's biological son made everything else, the mortgage papers, the retirement community brochures, the talk of updating her will and healthcare proxy, seemed trivial by comparison. "Why tell me now?" she finally asked. "After all this time?" Eleanor closed the box carefully, her arthritis-gnarled fingers moving with deliberate precision. Muhammad died 7 years ago. The DNA analysis services these days can trace family connections with alarming accuracy. Your cousin did one of those tests last year. Maya's eyes widened. Did she find out? No, Eleanor said. But she found unexpected African ancestry and has been asking questions. Technology advances faster than our capacity to keep secrets, Maya. I'd rather you heard it from me than discovered it through some artificial intelligence algorithm matching genetic markers. Does this have anything to do with selling the house? Maya asked, gesturing at the real estate contract on the table. Eleanor nodded. Muhammad set up a trust. As he promised, I never touched it, just let it grow. But when I die, it passes to your father. If he suddenly inherits a small fortune, questions will be asked. Better I liquidate some assets now, make it seem like the money came from the house sale and smart investing. Maya studied her grandmother with newfound respect. You've thought of everything. I've had 30 years of solitude to plan, Eleanor said with a sad smile. When you don't have a social life, you have plenty of time for financial planning. Maya reached across the table to take her grandmother's hand. But why live alone all this time? After Grandpa died, you could have, I don't know, dated someone, found companionship. After loving Muhammad, and then finding comfort with William, it seemed greedy to ask for more, Eleanor explained. Besides, every relationship requires openness, honesty. I've built my entire adult life around a secret I couldn't share. Until now, Maya pointed out, you're sharing it with me. Because you deserve to know where you come from, Eleanor said. And because I'm tired, Maya, tired of carrying this alone. For the first time since beginning her story, Eleanor's composure cracked, a single tear traced down her cheek, followed by another. Did you ever see him again? Maya asked gently. After you separated? Eleanor wiped her eyes. 3 times. Once when your father was 10. Muhammad was in town for a fight. I took your father to watch him train, just another fan in the crowd. Muhammad looked right at him, right at his own son, and had no idea. The second time, after his diagnosis, Parkinson's was taking its toll, but his mind was still sharp. I visited him at his home in Arizona. His wife was there, his 4th wife by then. She was kind, gave us privacy to talk. He asked about his son. I showed him pictures. And the 3rd time, Eleanor's voice dropped to a whisper. 2 weeks before he died. I couldn't stay away, knowing the end was near. He couldn't speak much by then, but he squeezed my hand, recognized me immediately. Maya absorbed this in silence, then asked, Do you regret it, the choice you made? Eleanor considered the question carefully. I regret that the world we lived in made such a choice necessary. But no, I don't regret protecting your father. I don't regret giving him a stable life, free from scandal and scrutiny, and living alone all these years. That was my private health insurance policy, in a way, Eleanor said with unexpected lightness. Against heartbreak. Once you've loved someone like Muhammad Ali, ordinary love feels insufficient. Maya squeezed her grandmother's hand. You gave up so much. I gained a son, a granddaughter, Eleanor countered. A life of purpose. I rose to chief nursing officer because I had no distractions, no competing priorities. The security system I built around this secret protected all of us. Maya stood abruptly. We need to tell Dad. No, Eleanor said sharply. That wasn't why I told you. Your father has built his entire identity around being William James's son. Finding out at 58 that his life is based on a fiction, finding out he's the son of Muhammad Ali, isn't exactly bad news, Grandma. It's not about good or bad news, Eleanor insisted. It's about who he understands himself to be. Your father has a family medical history that isn't accurate. He has roots he knows nothing about. Learning the truth now would upend his sense of self. Maya paced the room, processing. So why tell me? If not to eventually tell Dad, Eleanor's expression softened, because someone needed to know, and because you, my dear, have always been stronger than your father, more adaptable, like your grandfather. Which one? Maya asked with a touch of irony. Both of them, Eleanor replied with the ghost of a smile. They sat in silence for several minutes, the weight of decades of secrets settling between them. So what happens now? Maya finally asked. Now, Eleanor said, rising with some effort, we sell this mausoleum I've rattled around in for 30 years. I move into that luxury retirement community your app found. I stop living for the secret and start living for myself, for whatever time I have left. And the box, Maya nodded toward the container of memories. The box is yours now, Eleanor said, to guard or to share when the time is right. Your inheritance isn't just financial, Maya, it's this story. This legacy. Maya stood, embracing her grandmother tightly. I'll protect it, I promise. Over Eleanor's shoulder, Maya caught sight of the framed photo on the mantel, her father at his college graduation, flanked by Eleanor and the man Maya had always known as her grandfather. But now, looking closely, she could see it, the set of her father's jaw, the distinctive shape of his eyes. Features that hadn't come from William James, but from a boxer who'd shaken up the world. He really never knew, Maya whispered. Muhammad Ali never told anyone about his son. He made me the same promise I made him, Eleanor said, to protect our child above all else. Some promises transcend even the greatest love stories. As Eleanor packed away the box of memories, Maya noticed her grandmother standing taller, as though a weight had lifted from her shoulders after 30 years of solitude. You know, Eleanor said thoughtfully, your grandfather Muhammad once told me, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. I've tried to live by that, even in isolation. You've more than paid your rent, Grandma, Maya assured her. Many times over. Perhaps, Eleanor agreed, but I think it's time I rejoined the world. Time to stop paying for a room I've outgrown. If you've made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing. I tell these stories with my heart in my hand to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this truly touched you, give back, comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.